So thank you so much, everybody, for having me here. I really appreciate it. It's so nice to be back in Israel, I can't tell you. I might not be Jewish, but certainly this definitely feels like a kind of home to me as well. So I'm grateful for the hospitality and I'm grateful for the kindness. And you will know this is a battle we are in. There's no doubt about it. We are at war. It just hasn't been declared yet. Nobody stood and said, we will fight them on the beaches. We will fight them. But I tell you, we are fighting them every day. And that's true for me in Ra'anana. That's true for me when I go to migrant camps. And that's true for me in London any day of the week. This battle is on. And there are many of us who will stand together to fight it. And that is a truly glorious thing indeed. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. A little background on who the hell I am. Who was it earlier? I think it was Tulip, who was saying he looked me up, but he spelt my name wrong. So he got a lady called Cafe Hopkins with a T-H-Y, and she turned out to be like 75 and a vegan. I was like, no, that is not me. I'm much more interesting than that, I promise. I'm Milo's mum. I get that all the time. Or angry Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know if you know Ellen DeGeneres. Or I get the female Farage, except I have way better teeth and breath. I say that from personal experience. So I grew up going through university. I always wanted to be in the army. I was always going to serve my country. I love my country, as it turns out. And I was sponsored through university by the Royal Intelligence Corps. My father says that I got someone else's offer, which is not very kind. My father always says they'll find a use for me, they just haven't found one yet. So I went off to Sandhurst, the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. I went in as one of 30 girls. They called us the lumpy jumpers, but my lumps weren't that impressive. And I came out as one of 8 girls with a regular commission for 35 years in the British Army. And I was determined that I would be the first female general, so that was the plan. It turns out I was also a secret epileptic. I didn't tell them that I was a suspected epileptic, and that was wrong. I believed that if I could show that I was physically strong enough and capable and pass the course, I would prove that I was better than my condition. I'm not that great at being told no, I guess, is what we've learnt. And so it turned out that after I passed out of Sandhurst, instead of joining my regiment, I was medically discharged from the career that I was determined to follow. However, in my wisdom now, as an older and wiser person, I do see that an epileptic with a semi-automatic weapon may not be the best idea. Okay, I get it. They may have had a point. And so I think what happened was I choose to fight for my country now in a different way. And I do that, oh, thank you. Thank you. And I do that by going and showing people the truths of my country. Because as much as they want to throw labels at me and call me an Islamophobe, a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, whatever label, it doesn't really matter. You know, I go to a place where I say, okay, I'll accept that label if you will now listen to what I'm saying. Call me what you want. I really don't mind. But now let me show you this. And I found that that is one of the ways that we can break through the leftist-controlled narratives of our countries. And it's really important to me. And in a way, that's why they don't want you to see Homeland either. And I tell you, you will see that documentary. The link is live. They don't know about it. I'm pushing it out tomorrow. They don't want you to see it because it tells the truths of Jewish families in Western Europe who are now forced from their homes by the Islamists who control the suburbs and the streets of the cities where we live. There are beautiful people who were supposed to be in Ra'anana tonight that contributed to that documentary. Lovely Jewish families from Paris, some of whom received letters straight to their homes, 18 families, saying, we know you're Jewish, we will kill you, get out. And the police came and told them, there's nothing we can do, you should leave. Those are Jewish families in Paris now. There's a lady, she was thrown from her balcony. You may have heard about her in Paris. Remember? Stabbed, thrown from her balcony. And she survived the Veldiv roundup. She survived the Holocaust, but she could not survive Paris in 2018. And these are the truths of the people that I bring in the Homelands documentary, and for my money, that's why they don't want anybody to see it, because these are the truths of which we cannot speak. And we're not alone there either. My Jewish friends are not alone, because it's the same for me too, and for other British Christian families or whatever religion you may say you are. We are looking for a way out. There is a silent exodus underway in Western Europe. The takeover of my country is all but complete, and my country will fall. We're looking to Poland, we're looking to Hungary, and I spent much of my time here with lovely individuals working with Aliyah, explaining that my heart breaks because I don't have an Israel. To which the rabbi and others said, come, we'll look after you anyway. So I was always kind of excited by that. But we are looking for a new place to call home, because it's not safe where I live anymore, and I am very quickly becoming a minority in my own country. White Brits are a minority in London. Christians are a minority in Birmingham, in Bradford, in Luton, in Leicester, in Manchester. I could go on. We just had an election a couple of days ago. It was won by Labour, but it wasn't really won by Labour. It was won by a white lady who was a front for the majority Pakistani Muslim voting bloc, who voted by postal ballot. They had a gentleman there who is a convicted vote fraudster running the campaign. And on the election night, he was the one celebrating. My very big fear for the UK is that Jeremy Corbyn and Labour will get into power. They will be in Downing Street. And that Labour MP, in order to get the votes of the majority Pakistani Muslim population that she represents, she tweeted something anti-Israel. She said it was a mistake. Of course, it wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate signing to her voting bloc that they should support her. And that's what we face in the UK. In Birmingham, Muslim births outnumber births to any other religion. If you bump into a child in Birmingham, they are more likely to be a Muslim child than any other religion. In London, I do not believe it is now electorally possible for anything other than a Muslim mayor to be elected, because the boroughs of London, of which there are 5, are majority Muslim. Tower Hamlets, majority Muslim, followed by the second most densely packed population in Newham, majority Muslim. And I say this to you because the takeover is systematic. There are 3 simple steps to the takeover. 1, move in densely packed Muslim family populations. So where one white family or British family or ethnically local family used to live, now 5 Muslim families live. They all move out, and the Muslim families are densely packed. Then you build mosques. You facilitate the population. Funding flows in. And now, instead of people voting according to policies or principles, you have people voting according to their religion. The imam dictates who you'll be voting for. Or in the case of the recent election that I covered last week, people hand over their postal ballots in exchange for cash, and the guys from the mosque collect them up and fill them in for them. Now you have political Islam, people voting according to the mosque. And from there, of course, funding, power, all goes to the Muslim community. I'll give you an example of London, where my little friend, the nipple height, sorry gentlemen, Muslim mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he is literally this high, which is insulting to me, and I'm in flats. He has a Muslim housing association. he has a Muslim police association. He threw a Muslim party for Eid in Trafalgar Square, and the call to prayer was boomed out across Trafalgar Square under Nelson's column. And I can tell you, stuff like that gives me the heebie-jeebies any day of the week, not through any disrespect to another religion, but just because those places really mean something to a British person. And it's almost like I'm watching my country fall in front of my eyes, and yet nobody else will talk about it. Because if you talk about it, you lose everything. And one of the very great things, actually, about losing everything, I think that might be the leftists looking to see where we're gathering. It might be my friend from Channel 13. He needs to go and tell somebody that they need to shut us down immediately in case we're talking about things we shouldn't. One of the great things about losing everything is it is actually very freeing. When there's nothing else they can take from you, you are very free to speak your mind. And so that, in a way, is a positive of my situation. First of all, of course, they come for your jobs. So I used to have a column on a national newspaper. I worked for The Sun, and then I worked for Mail Online for 2 years. I was kind of known as a face of BBC or ITV. They took those jobs. They lobby the advertisers, and they remove your posts when you stop saying the things you're supposed to say and start saying how you really feel. Yeah, like in Israel, like here. Then they came for my children. I have 3 children. They are 15, 14, and 10. It's why I like to be away a lot on the road. And 2 girls and a boy. And they report them to social services. I've had 4 cases of social services at my door for reported welfare incidents for my children. And they hope that by reporting me as a bad mother, they will take my children and silence me that way. Then they come for your children. Then they came for my home. So they have Lawfare, where you can use litigation to silence someone by repeated cases against you that you're supposed to settle, because that's how it works. I had 12 at one point law cases lined up against me for things I may have said or perceived harm. And because I refused to settle, because I don't believe in lawfare or litigation that's against you to silence you, they took my family home. So a couple of years ago, we moved out of the family home, and I went into proceedings to try and protect the remainder of what my family had. And then they came for my head. So 2 jihadis in the UK, as a wedding present, the female wanted my head because she said I was the biggest bitch in Britain. Yeah, you better believe it, sister. Yes, I am. And so she and her jihadi husband, future husband, made a plan to behead me. They brought a hunting, it's all online. The newspapers actually reported this because for them it was a good news story. Jimmy's happy. They bought a dummy, like a plastic shop dummy, like a model, and a hunting knife, and they practiced at home. And then in the middle of the night in my home, which is way out in the countryside, where I keep my husband and my children and my parents, who are going to come to live with me eventually, because I will take care of my parents. And a group of men arrived, all dressed in black, and they fitted my home up with alarms and emergency devices. So they rigged my phone up to the local police station, such that if I picked up my phone, even if I couldn't speak, police cars would come. They put up at the top of my house on the 3rd floor a panic box, a black box, and they told me if a jihadi should come through your door, run to the top of your house, shake the panic box, and the police squads would come. My children live on the 2nd floor. I tell you, there's no way I'm going to the 3rd floor when my children are on the 2nd floor, not ever. And then they left and they told me not to worry. Yeah, sure. Anyway, the 2 jihadis, whatever their names were, and or something like that, they were found guilty, actually, and locked up and put in prison, and they are in prison as we speak. So hooray for the British forces for that, thank God. But the state wasn't quite finished with me yet. For the sin of speaking our truths, for standing up for my country, for wanting to put British people first. My government, the British government, commissioned a play. Banners went up all over the place on buses, big posters. Keep running, sweetie, don't fall in the pool. And it was a play commissioned by the government called The Assassination of Katie Hopkins. So my point is, and I feel not sorry for myself one jot, I accept all of this, and I accept it without any sense of, I have no sense of ill will towards anyone for any of it. All I say is that it is actually a very freeing thing, because what frustrates them more than anything is if they take all that from you, and yet you still speak. You will not be quiet. I will not be silent. And one of the glorious things is about the left and the way that they push down on our side of the seesaw, you know, they try and shut us up, is that what actually happens is the other side of the seesaw pops up and we find each other and our voices grow louder and louder. I say to the left, you are Frankenstein and I am your monster. And you created me, and I will shout in your face with our truths until we are heard. And I am not going away. You will not get me yet. And there's something I see in you guys, in people like us, and in the South African farmers with whom I've spent so much time. And you will know, I suspect, the white farmers of South Africa are being systematically genocided from their land. The ANC, who the globalists love, of course, and Obama thinks is fantastic, the Rainbow Nation, my arse. They said land expropriation without compensation, which basically means we're going to take your land. And if you translate that down to the level of the gangs on the ground, the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the guys in the red berets you see chanting and dancing when they're spoiling things and wrecking things, it means they're coming to kill you. And they're doing it systematically. A gentleman whose land they were going to take, who stood up against them, who said it's only a life, but my land matters more, last week they went in and slaughtered him. The week before, a gang attacked a farmer and his wife. The wife was stabbed in the chest, but somehow made it to neighbours to find help. They tortured the couple with boiling water, which is one of their favourite things. They get hot irons, you know, irons, they plug them in and they torture the ladies with them. And then the farmer, they made a hole in his chin, strung barbed wire through his head and dragged him around his land. He died, but the 15 black farm workers who found him had to be taken to trauma care because they couldn't believe what had happened to the man who loved them so much. And that's the truth of South Africa, of course, is the black farmers need the white farmers because they've been in the same family for generations. But I tell you this stuff not to be depressed or not for the sorrow of the thing, but because actually their story is one of uplifting in terms of epic proportions. All of those white farmers, all of them big 6'8", 7'2" men who have lived through horrors none of us would wish to ever see in our lifetime, they say, I will not leave my land. They say, it could be tonight that it's my night, but I accept that if that's God's way. They say, I will die in my boots for the love of my land. And I think that is the ultimate in defiance. That is to say, my father turned this bushveld into this fertile soil, and I will not leave it, and even if you kill me, this land will still be mine. And I feel that a lot here in Israel. I feel it with some people in the UK as well. There is a sense that no matter what, we will carry on the fight for our land, even when we are overrun. And at the weekends in South Africa now, the Sudlanders, a brilliant group, they spend the weekend training. Ordinary farmers, ordinary wives, their children, spend the weekend practicing drills, practicing firearms, practicing first line of defense till you can get help, preparing themselves to make a last stand. And I see that in all of us. We will retreat to defendable space, and we will prepare to make a last stand, because we will not be beaten and we will not give in. And those two things are fundamental to who we are. And I think it matters to South Africans to know that you're here. It matters to the people in Europe who are awake, who are able to see, and who are fighting for us, to know that we are all in this together. You know, I like to think of us like spiders on a web. And that web is kind of invisible, but the strings that join us together are so strong. And when one of us moves or we feel each other, we know we're there and we know we're all together in the same cause. And I think one of the really uplifting things for us here in Israel and the UK is that we have Trump. And we will have Trump in 2020. And I will make sure of it. I'm going over to his birthday. Next week I leave here, go back to the UK, then I go to America to take homelands to America so that Americans can hear the stories of Jewish families being persecuted in Western Europe. And I get to go to Trump's birthday party at Trump International and speak to the good man. So we will say thank you, thank you, thank you. I also, I know that you guys hopefully one day are going to line me up to meet Bibi, because he is going to be my fourth husband. So we need to prepare him for that. We need to get him ready. We need to kind of warm him up gently to this information. So my view is that there is still hope out there, you know, and that we are still fighting. And as much as there are sad and sorry tales to be had, there's also much joy. And one of the ways we also win is by poking fun at those who tried to put us down. You know, people talk about jihadis. We had returning jihadis in the UK. We took back 326 of them because we're so accommodating and kind. The thing with returning jihadis, of course, is that if you're a jihadi, you're supposed to go and blow yourself up, aren't you? You're supposed to blow yourself up to get 72 virgins, which is more than you'll find in Tel Aviv on a good day. But actually, you didn't do that, did you? You're not really a returning jihadi, are you? You're just a bit of a shit jihadi. Just a bit shit at your job. And if you're returning, you probably want to end it all and end your life, but you can't because you're a shit jihadi. And I think this is where we've got to. We also have, interestingly, to your point about the LGBT versus Muslim problem with identity that the left have right now. So earlier this week, before I went to the election, before I came here, I was in a place called, it was a Birmingham school. It's called Anderton Park Primary. And at Anderton Park Primary, it's the second school now in Birmingham. Of course, Birmingham is majority Muslim. At this particular primary school, 98% of the parents are Muslim. And guess what? They no longer want tolerance classes taught at primary school. They no longer want any discussion of any kind about anything to do with LGBT. They no longer want the little book that teaches children that these two daddy penguins raised a penguin chick, because of that, that's hugely offensive if you're a Muslim. There's also a book where Justin wants to become a mermaid, and they don't like that much either. And so for 7 weeks, the Muslim majority parents have protested outside the school, prevented any child going to school classes until they stop the LGBTQ tolerance classes being taught in school. And they've already had success. One school has stopped the lessons, pulled the books, stopped the classes. This school will do the same, mark my words. The Labour MP, guess what he just did? Came out in support of the Muslim parents. So the interesting thing here is when identity politics starts to eat itself and the lizard starts to eat its own tail. And the left are like, hold on, we need the LGBTQ vote because we love being tolerant and diverse, but hold on, there's more Muslims than there ever were before and we definitely need their vote. So what do we do? And they just don't know which one to support. And they're caught between the two and they're having to make a choice and they're choosing the Muslim community. And in a way, when I think to people like lovely Doron Kramer, who spoke to me and said, we need to treat every day like September the 1st, 1939, in a way I can see the regression happening as well for the LGBTQ community. Because you start pulling tolerance classes out of school. You start teaching which is what they're chanting, it's not okay to be gay. And how far is the UK from regressing to a point where it's illegal to be homosexual? I don't think we're that far away. So I want to leave you by saying thank you so much for listening to me. There's a couple, Monique and her husband. And when I was interviewing so many families here, actually here in Israel this was, they've moved here because they had to escape Paris. She was called a dirty Jew in the street too many times. And they escaped to Israel. They bought a flat here. Not only did they buy a flat here, they bought an apartment for their daughters because they so hope that their daughters and their grandchildren will come. And their daughters tell their mother, they know that it's not a question of if, but when. And Monique tells them to keep a suitcase by the door in Paris in 2019. And Monique said to me, you know, the pessimists ended up in LA with a pool, and the optimists ended up in Auschwitz. And right now we can't afford to be optimistic in Western Europe. And so I'll leave you with Monique's words because I think they're the most touching. But in the interim, I wanted to say to you that I'm not going anywhere. I will die in my boots for the love of my land, and I stand with Israel. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you. Questions? I'm told I'm to ask questions. Well, I'm not to ask questions, you're to ask questions. If you want to ask a question, shout it, I'll repeat it, and try and answer it. Yes?
What about Holocaust studying in the UK? In school?
So what about Holocaust studying in the UK? Certainly not something that any of my children have studied. It's being removed as an inconvenient truth. As with so many things, you know, we just had the D-Day anniversary. The children in many schools, I had hundreds of emails from parents, absolutely beyond words, that there was no mention of it at all in classes, even on that day, because it's not a convenient truth. We're not allowed to speak about it. And in fact, my children at school, I've now moved schools, but they had two trips to the mosque in one term. I'm okay with the trip to the mosque. I don't want to interfere with my children's learning, but until they go to a cathedral, until they go to a synagogue, until they go to an atheist place of worship or someone else's gathering point, they're not doing two trips to the mosque in one term. So I've put my foot down and removed my children from those lessons. I will not have that done. But yeah, we don't get taught about the Holocaust anymore. Sir, back row, black t-shirt.
What do you say about the Brexit party? Maybe England has a chance to go to other Europe.
Okay, so about Brexit party and Farage. And of course, there is hope. I wouldn't necessarily say hope looks like Nigel Farage and the Brexit party, because Nigel Farage is, after all, there for Nigel Farage. You know, he doesn't have a party, he has the Nigel Farage show. But what I would say is that 17.4 million brilliant British people voted for Brexit. They're my kind of people. None of us, we aren't represented by London. We're certainly not represented by Sadiq Khan or the intellectual elite that control our media. We live in a brilliant place called the rest of the UK. And in the rest of the UK, we're really normal. We like to clean our own toilets. We like to do our own hoovering and our own ironing. We have rows with our husbands and slam the door. But at the end of the day, we're people. And we really don't give a shit what the little Muslim mayor has to say that day. Not one little shit. And he is a little shit. We love Israel and we love Trump, and our voices aren't heard. So anytime you hear Free Palestine coming out of London, know that the rest of the UK is quietly saying, oh, piss off. Because that's the truth of where I come from, and it's a better place. Sir.
Okay. One thing that caught my attention when you spoke about the last stand, standing in your boots, the Southern African farmers, you between your second and your third floor, trying to determine which step to wait for the anyone's coming.
Jihadi, yeah.
And that troubles me in a way because it is as if most of us are reactive, just waiting for this last stand to defend our last post. And that's a scary thing because and it's just lately that it caught me, very strongly about what we do need to do proactively and not reactively.
Yes.
Because we need to push the fight to their field and not wait in our field.
Yes.
Because we're losing there.
Yes.
And few are doing it amazingly well. Forum Shapira is doing it, and it changed my life just to start reading Forum Shapira, I must tell you that. And you and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, and I'm just, in the last year I've been doing studies for like 4 years of university, I think. So this is one thing that I wanted to say. We need to be taught and we need to teach
Yes.
how to move proactively and change the rules of engagement here.
It's so true. It's about, a last stand, a defendable space, a retreat to defendable space is very reactive. How do we be more proactive? How do we try and take the fight to people? How do we get ahead? And I think networks like this are absolutely the start of it, because for many of us, I think many people here, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but can feel very lonely in normal day-to-day life. But by being a group like this, you realize that you're not alone and that you're many, and many people feel like you, even if you can't express that in day-to-day life. And I think I go back to sort of some very fundamentals, which Israeli families do brilliantly. And number one is the family. The one thing that the leftists do better than anyone is get to the very heart of the family to rip it apart. Thanksgiving dinners in America now, over the last 5 years, there's families in America that no longer spend Thanksgiving together because the daughter-in-law won't speak to the mother because she votes for Trump, or vice versa. Ripping families apart. And Thanksgiving was always a neutral space. I'm sure you have a similar thing going on where there's families that can't get together. We have it over Brexit. There's families who won't spend time together, won't spend Christmas together, a family day, because one person like me would vote Brexit and the young people are Remain. And what we have to try and do is re-establish a civility in our family networks where we're still a family first. I really think the power of the family is so important, and it's why the left has torn it apart. It's why 2 dads are okay, or 3 mums, or 15 uncles, or whatever else. We have to try and re-establish family matters. I also think they try and take away our sense of belonging. So you take away the family, so suddenly you're a nomad, and now take away your sense of belonging. Make it so that the Union flag can no longer be flown because it's a racist symbol. I had emails from a gentleman who had the England flag up just for the football, no other reason. He was told he'd be removed from his premises if he didn't take the flag down because it's a racist symbol. Take away that you're not allowed to be a patriot. You're not allowed to be proud of your country. We have a little flyer, I don't know if you saw it online, went out to our British Army, warning indicators of extremist right wing. Any talk of patriotism, any talk of being proud of your country, that's a warning sign of being an extremist right wing. So they try and take away your sense of belonging to a country so that you're a nomad once more, you don't stand for anything. And I think that's how we get ahead. We remind people what it means to stand for something by making them remember what they love about their family or love about their country. And I think that's part of what I try and do, is make people love their country again, or at least be passionate about it. So that would be my answer. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, at the back. You're allowed to ask one. Pick your best one, obviously.
Do you think, listen, I think that in Germany they'll have the hooligans eventually go and do the fighting. In France, we already seen the
Yellow vest.
Yellow vest. Maybe they will win, maybe they won't, but they will fight. Will someone do it in Britain?
No. Yeah, so we've seen people fight in Germany, the hooligans or whomever. In France, you have the Gilets jaunes. Where are the fighters in the UK? And there are none.
There's Tommy Robinson.
There's Tommy Robinson, but... So what happens in the UK, they were very, very effective at anybody who sticks their head up, obviously crushing them. Tommy Robinson is a really good example of that, making it such that anybody dare not speak because they'll lose their house. So British people are British people like to own their homes. British people have mortgages. I know this is many countries, it's not unique to the UK. But it means that people are controlled by the fact they need to keep their marriage, they want to keep their family, they want to keep paying their mortgage. And if you even like a tweet of mine in the UK, that's a dismissible offence. If you like something I've said, that will have you sacked. Somebody from the fire service the other day retweeted something of mine, they were gone within the week. So they have made it such the control over what you can say. People say, oh, there's free speech. No, 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 no. If you step out of the line and you show any support for someone like me, Tommy, you're gone. And that's how they control. That's why there's no fighters. That's why there's no fight, because people simply can't afford to lose everything. And that's why there's just a few of us left. Tommy goes back to court on the 4th of July for the charge of causing anxiety to the majority Pakistani Muslim paedophile rapists. It was determined it was in the public interest to carry on a court case at the highest court in the land because he caused anxiety to majority Pakistani paedophiles. And that was applauded by the media, the left. He's widely despised in the UK because they have success in promoting that idea. So that's how they control us. That's why there's no fighters, because people just need to get by. It's a very peculiar country that I live in. We just had a 73-year-old lady have police visit her door because she tried to suggest there was only 2 genders. A Catholic lady, a friend of mine who has 5 daughters, she was arrested in her home, kept in a prison cell for 7 hours because she accidentally misgendered a trans individual. I mean, the clampdown is enormous. I've been arrested, interviewed under caution by the Major Crime and Homicide Command for a column in a newspaper. You know, the repression is absolute. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How dangerous is the George Galloway?
How dangerous is where? George Galloway. Oh.
We don't know much about him.
Yes, George Galloway. I don't know. I think because he appeared on national TV pretending to be a pussycat, and he was dressed as a cat, and he was on a reality TV show, and he was drinking from a saucer of milk, because I think it was Celebrity Big Brother, whatever. And we struggle to find him dangerous, because once he dressed as a cat and drank a saucer of milk on national TV. I think he's not that dangerous because he's in our eyesight. My fear much more is for those hidden in plain sight who are operating at high levels of the establishment and are hardwiring anti-Semitism into our country. Our bus stops in London for a while there had Israel is a racist endeavour on our bus stops in London.
Even on banners along the buses.
On banners, yeah, on banners on the buses too. So, you know, that's where we're at. And on 7/7, do you remember they blew up our buses, 7/7? 7/7 last year, they had Ramadan is, you know, pray for Ramadan on our buses on 7/7. They are actively laughing at us. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask something about the demographical situation in Europe, not particularly from the point of Britain, but all of Europe.
Yes.
I heard that demographically speaking, there won't be any Europe at 2050.
2050, yeah.
You live there. What do you think is the time frame real?
Yes, yes. So by 2050, we're completely outnumbered. So by 2050, there will be more Muslims than any other religion in Western Europe. Yeah, within my life, you know, within 20 years, certainly, I think that change will be complete. And that's why people like me are looking where to go. It isn't necessarily for myself, because I'm happy to just do that stand. But I need to, like a tree or something, we like to leave our young somewhere where they'll be okay, you know, and so I'm trying to find where that place might be. Well, I know, Israel. I need to find a Jewish husband. This is why the BB thing matters. Look, I'm thinking ahead. One second. So yes, I see us making a move. I think we will see a massive move eastwards. So just as Syria and all of the Muslim countries have swept into Europe, we will continue the journey eastwards. Yes, well, yes, we could loop right back round and start again. And I think my Jewish friends will continue, Golders Green, so many of my friends there. We're going to show Homelands in Golders Green on the 2nd of July. We'll probably get a pasting, but we're going to do it. They've just, approved for a mega mosque in Golders Green. Who does that, really? That's when they're laughing at us. I don't know how many more questions I'm allowed. Where's boss? One more. Yes.
What will be your prediction that the Muslims as a community, as a collective, will behave when they are outnumbering?
Yes. What will be the Muslims' behaviour when we are outnumbered? And we've already seen... Oh, sorry, pardon?
They will kill you.
Oh, they'll kill us. Okay, good. Cheery news there. But the first thing that will happen, and it's already happening, is... I explained how we ended up with political Islam, or in brief, I gave my interpretation of that, sorry. What happens next is the Islam Party. So in Belgium, the place of the European Parliament, the place Molenbeek, the jihadi capital of Europe that I spent some time in, which was a joy. And they already have the Islam Party. The Islam Party has elected representatives. Their policies are segregated transport, the covering of women, halal, and the rest of it. And that's true in Germany as well. In the last elections, there was a migrant-only party that outperformed all other parties. So I predict within the next 5 years in the UK, you will see an Islam Party emerge. And that's the very first sign of what's about to come. So take over politically, take over financially, and then we'll start to be pushed out from our homes. But I'm hoping many of us will get out before that.
I think that they will start a cleansing, ethnic cleansing.
There will be a cleansing.
Starting with the civil war.
The cleansing has begun.
I'm talking about violence.
Yes, I know, but cleansing has begun already. Jewish ladies thrown from balconies. Jewish people attacked just for being Jewish. German Jews told not to wear their kippah.
It's not a collective behavior. I'm talking about gangs that are going against Christians.
I think South Africa shows the glimpse into how it works. Once you become a minority, South Africans are 8% whites, then it is only a matter of time before you are cleansed from the land. That will happen to us.
That Lebanon is a good example of what happened.
Lebanon.
To a state that goes from Christianity.
I don't have all the answers, that's just my view. So should I be quiet now? I feel like I should. I'll be quiet. Thank you very much indeed. I'll hand back the microphone. Thank you. Don't fall over.
Lovely.
Do not fall. Don't fall. Okay.